What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Trout Wrangler Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Garrity. We have a big episode ahead for y'all today. We got a pretty big interview coming, and then we got to recap our trip to the Saluda. But first, before we get into the interview, I just want to let you guys know that you can save 10% on your order at riversmith.com using the code Wrangler10. You know, they just came out with their new 45 hauler. Super awesome. I got to see it in person for the first time this past weekend, and it is really cool. Awesome accessory to have with you, whether you're in a boat, whether you're traveling, whatever you're doing, whatever you're hauling, it's good for it. Also save 10% on your river quivers. You know, don't want to be breaking your rods. Don't want to break down your rods after fishing. I know we all hate to do it. So go ahead and buy one of those Riversmith river quivers. Super cool product. And this month, if you buy a river quiver or anything from the Riversmith Convoy series, you get a free month of Trout Routes Premium. Pretty cool. So go and buy you one. Use Wrangler 10 at checkout to save you 10%. Get your free premium subscription to Trout Routes, and enjoy this interview with Cameron from the Fiberglass Manifesto. Peace. What's up, guys? Like I said in the introduction, we have a special guest. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit there, Cameron.
Yeah, I'm Cameron Mortenson, and since 2008, I've been writing the fly fishing website on all things fiberglass and more called the Fiberglass Manifesto.
Yes, sir. So, what inspired you to start the Fiberglass Manifesto, and why focus specifically on fiberglass rods?
You know, I used to spend a lot of time on the Fiberglass Fly Rodders forum, and there was a chat room, and on Sunday nights, there was a group of us that would go in there and chat. Maybe it was about like what fly rod we were seeing on eBay, or what had been going on during each member's week, or where they'd been fishing. And there's one member on the forum, Mike Carlson. He's a rod builder, but also he's in law enforcement, and I'm in law enforcement for a career, and so he and I had a lot in common, and we would chat back and forth if nobody else was in the room. And this was about the time that the online magazine started rolling out. This is Fly Catch magazine, and there was a real resurgence in glass. Where when I joined Fiberglass Fly Rodders, it was really primarily about vintage glass. But then there was more and more new glass out there. And Mike was like, it'd be really neat if there was some sort of new media online that was, covered contemporary glass. The builders, the rod makers, the rod companies, the blank makers. And I thought it was a great idea. And I remember asking him, typing back, what would we call it? And he immediately typed back and said, the Fiberglass Manifesto. And I was like, wow, that just really was catchy. And so it planted a seed. Neither of us are very savvy when it comes to the internet or how to put together an online magazine. And then one day, it was probably 2 or 3 months later, there was one night in the forum, I was like, hey, do you mind if I try to do something with that name? He's like, no, go ahead. And I likely just Googled, how to start a blog, and which shot me to Blogger. And I started piecing together, what was really a rudimentary template. And in fact, fast forward 18 years later, it's the same template, but it just looks a little bit more jazzed up than it did back then. And I just started writing, wrote about contemporary glass, wrote about things that I would see in vintage glass, rods that I'd collected, me fishing glass, other people fishing glass, developed, some stickers and swag and t-shirts that ended up sending to people all over the world. And I really didn't know in the beginning, like how many people, were reading TFM. Like for people that haven't been on the internet for 25 years, like some things that are super easy now, like analytics, was not really something that was, easy to figure out. And so I just never knew how many people were reading TFM. All I knew is that I'd wake up early in the morning and I would put some content out every few days and answer a few emails and just kept plugging away at it. And it really wasn't until I started showing up at different fly fishing festivals. People were like, oh, you're the glass guy or you're the TFM guy. Went to IFTD, met a ton of people there, and they were aware of the website, and just started being very deliberate about anytime I heard there was a rumor that Reddington was working on a glass project or Orvis was working on something. I started to figure out like who I needed to reach out to confirm rumors, and a lot of times companies were coming to me saying, hey, we'd like to do something in glass. What should we be thinking about? What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? What are people asking for that's not currently being offered? And so for really the last 15 or 16 years of the 18 years I've been writing TFM, it's really been neat to be part of the conversation with a lot of these different rod companies, small shop companies, taper makers, blank makers, just to be in the know.
Yeah, you're like the fiberglass Adam Schefter.
That's right. So, and really have created like a landing page. Everything else, there's tons of other content on TFM, but there's that fiberglass fly rod builders page, or, that really connects people to fly rod makers all over the world. So it's kind of neat to have that resource out there.
Oh yeah, I remember following you guys like it was a while back. It was like when I first like started getting on like Instagram and stuff like that, and it was kind of like small at that point. It exploded, and
Well,
it's pretty big now to the point where I'm like, oh my god! I was looking at like a post the other day. I was like, holy crap! It's insane how big this vlog's gone.
I am proof that if you don't even have to be really good at something, but if you do it over and over and over again and keep at it, like it's going to gain traction. I've never professed that TFM is like top shelf, but it's been a really fun, creative outlet for me. It's been something I can work on photography and writing, and it's been a neat escape from like real life, and it's connected me to folks all over the world. And I don't even really want to know like when you first started following TFM, because I've gotten several emails lately about, oh yeah, I was following you in high school. And
Yeah.
I remember sitting in class reading TFM, and I was probably, well, I mean, when I started TFM, I was in my early 30s, and I'm 50 now. So it's just wild that span of my life has been filled with this project called the Fiberglass Manifesto.
I remember reading it in my freshman year psychology class in
Wow,
college. I'd
that is
sit there and
wild.
I'd read it. I couldn't stand the professor, and I was like, dude, how can I get through this class? I'd read the Fiberglass Manifesto. That's all I'd
But
do.
well, I've told people for a long time, like, you can't take any of this too seriously. You are just providing an escape for people, whether it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then they're back to like stalking ex-girlfriends on Facebook and stuff. So, but I'm glad that I was able to like get you through that class.
Dude, it's cool because it's like now that I'm like more into fly fishing now. I was big into the bass fishing thing when I fished in college and all that good jazz. And now I'm way more into fly fishing now. And I've been starting to like go and experiment with fiberglass rods and stuff like that and looking up different fiberglass builders. And I'll go back to like your website or your Instagram like every single time and just look. I was like, which one should I look up today? And it's cool to see like how many that you have hit. Like I know I was asking you earlier about San Juan rods. Like that's kind of one of the ones it's a shop rod company. It's really
Yep.
cool. I've seen stuff from them. But did you expect fiberglass rods to become such a passion and project when you first launched it, especially like when your first one was the $30 Eagle Claw rod?
Yeah. First rod. And, I was thinking this morning on my walk that what if I had not had that fiberglass rod as my first fly rod? And what if I hadn't, like, I fished with it for like the first year I I fly fished. And then everything I was reading at the library, I'm really dating myself, but at the magazine stand was like graphite, graphite, graphite. And you're very impressionable when you start like a new hobby. You want what everybody's telling you should have. And so I completely stopped fishing that Eagle Claw Featherlight for literally like 6 or 8 years, like never fished it at all. I just put it in the back of the closet and just forgot about it. And then there was one day, before we had children, I had like my own gear room. And it was great for like planning out trips because you could lay out everything you needed. And in
Yeah.
the far back corner of that closet was that yellow Eagle Claw Featherlight. And I remember pulling it out one day and looking at it, and I was like, man, this is gaudy. There's like a ruler on the side. I mean, it's just a silly, little fly rod. And I was like, this would be fun to go down to the family pond that's through the woods. And I mean, it'd be good enough for bass and bluegill.
Yeah.
And started fishing it, and I was like mind blown, like how fun this rod was. And by then that's what got me onto the Fiberglass Fly Rodders forum, and I realized there was all these like seriously glass geeks that were all into vintage glass. That's all they fished. And then also on the forum are people that like used to work at Fenwick and used to work at Orvis and used to work at L.O. Bean and had built glass rods and had all this history. And for me, it just like really, it opened all these different doors. Like I didn't even realize there was all this history and there was all these things to figure out. And so I deep dove into all these different vintage glass companies. I got really into vintage, like Click and Paul fly reels, and started like just being a total fiend on eBay, trying to find different things to like, anything I could afford was really like showing up on my doorstep for a while. And then it like kind of narrowed down, like, this is what I like in vintage glass. And I got really into Martin fly reels. I got really into English made JW Young fly reels. I mean, some of these reels are like 75, 80 years old, never been fished, like find them in their boxes. Total nerd stuff, but it just really ignited like this even deeper passion to fly fishing.
I went down a super, super nerdy, like almost same kind of thing. Like to where I'm a huge Red Sox fan. The old Sears Ted Williams series.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to find like any affordable like piece of Ted Williams Sears stuff. All the rods were like $2,000. I found like a reel case and bought it for like $15, and it got lost in the mail at our last event.
Oh,
I
that's
was
a
like,
bummer.
no. But it's like it's crazy how like you can go down those nerdy little side roads when you're on in this hobby.
Oh yeah, like I was all over UK eBay and was, finding like a brand new JW Young reel that was in a box, had never been fished, that was like 75 years old. And I would like send them a message like, hey, could you take that auction down? I'll give you, I mean, I was like picking up reels for like 75 or $100, which really, if you think about the quality of those reels, is a steal. And
Yeah.
so that was kind of like my workaround. Like I didn't even have to deal with USA eBay. Like all these reels originated in the UK, and I could find them on eBay there and getting them for like $50, $75. And so it was a neat game. Like once I understood all the different JW Young reels and the different families and trying to find like pristine versions of all those reels. And so I ended up, I don't know, at one point I probably had 2 dozen or
Holy
more
crap.
of those reels, and I've got a handful of them now, and they're fun to fish. And I mean, they're every bit as nice as Hardy reels, built in that same time they were coming out of the same factory.
Yeah. It's kind of cool to see that kind of stuff too. To like, the JWs were made in the same. I heard something about LL Bean. Their Streamlight rod series was wrapped and like built by G Loomis apparently.
Well, and their glass rods back in the day were Phillips and blanks. And
Okay.
so, there's a lot of overlap where sometimes a blank was made and then it was like kind of replicated for different companies. And I mean, there's all these wild like gas station fly rods too that you can find, that were like some obscure gas station would have fly rods made for them, by Shakespeare or Hedden or another company. And
Yeah.
so they're like private label fly rods that were really, blanks from another company. So
That's
just
pretty
a bunch
cool.
of weird stuff you can find out there.
Yeah. Dang, you got me wanting to go down a gas station fly rod hole.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. But you've called yourself a glass geek. How would you describe the community that formed around those fiberglass rods?
Like joining fiberglass fly rodders, I realized like these are like sickos that's all they fish is glass. And so like I had one glass rod, and then there was a forum member that sold me $45 like old Heddon rod, which was really a steal. And it's such a cool rod, 7 foot 5 weight. It like really blew my mind that rod could be so much fun, and it was so applicable because I was fishing a lot of like small streams in North Carolina, and some of them have big fish. And it kept me out of the rhododendron because they're like this canopy, and that shorter fly rod just had advantages to it. And so I would see guys on the forum, they had, 3, 4, 5 weights, but then they had a 7 weight, and they had 8, 9, and 10 weights, and so I very quickly started transitioning. Like, I didn't have a lot of fly rods then, but I quickly like sold them to fund more glass, uh,
Yeah.
because I realized that you could fish for literally everything from, 1, 2 weight up to two handers and 10 and 12 weights in glass. And uh, it's been neat to uh, show up everywhere that I ever fish, and I've got a glass rod, and it is something kind of special. And to know that there's other people out there that are taking it to that level too. It's been pretty fun to just see what everybody's glass adventures. And it took a while to like gain steam because hashtags weren't a big deal. But then once that glass is not dead hashtag, I think there's like 90,000 tags now. There's reels, there's pictures,
Yeah.
and to see everyone's experiences in glass, whether it's like chalk streams in England, whether it's like there's a group in Malaysia that do wild stuff with glass, Japan, all over the United States, Canada, down in South America. It's been really, really neat to see. It's not just for trout fishing. It's not just for little fish. Like, people are catching everything on glass rods.
Yeah. My buddy was telling me last week, he was like, dude, apparently there's like a huge red drum population in Japan. I was
Really?
like, yeah. I
Huh.
think it was a red drum population. He was like, yeah, dude, there's like a group of guys catching red drum in Japan.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
was like, what the heck?
and then yeah, it's wild what's out there, and it's pretty neat to see people. And it used to be like glass was, of course, you can like always see glass in photos because it's, typically a bright color. It doesn't look like a graphite rod. It's bent over. You're like, oh, that's definitely a glass rod. People are having fun doing it, and it's just neat to see it show up in more and more like commercial photo shoots. It's more commonplace to just see it out there. It's not such a surprise that guys are taking glass rods with them on tarpon trips, or, you know, anywhere they go, that, a glass rod can be there.
Yeah. I think I broke a 3 weight at the French Broad River um, last summer. And I went into Bass Pro, and they didn't have any more 3 weights for the rod that I had. And I was looking, the only 3 weight they had in stock was, I think it was like a bluegill rod.
Hmm.
It was like a 7 foot, it was either like 6'9" or 7 foot fiberglass fly rod. It was all one piece. I was like, I should go ahead and get that for like tight streams.
Oh yeah.
And I was sitting there, I was like, I kind of want to buy it. I ended up getting like a 7.64 weight. I was like, oh man, I still think about going back there and
You're gonna
buying that
regret that
fiberglass.
for a while. That would
Yeah,
be a
I
fun
was
ride.
like, oh, that would be a super fun rod. I was sitting there, I was like, man, for that price to have a 7 foot 3 weight, I was like, I'd almost just get it just to have it,
Oh yeah.
and then throw a reel on it later. But your blog includes gear reviews, rod maker spotlights, and travel writing. What unites these different types of content under the Fiberglass Manifesto umbrella?
I've been really lucky with the website. In the very beginning, it was very glass focused. Like all the content was glass. It was either fishing glass, finding glass, different rod builder highlights and everything. Over time, I started mixing in other things because, fly fishing is really neat because there's so many cool things. You've got small shop reel builders, you've got photographers, you've got videographers, you've got just really if you're deep dive into fly fishing, there's just always something to be excited about. And so pretty early on, I started just like throwing other content in. I've always looked at TFM as kind of like a puzzle, and every day I might put 2 or 3 pieces on it. And so it might be something that's very glass focused. It might be an online magazine that has a new issue. It might be a video from a friend or a videographer that I'm, very keen on. And I think what that does is it's created readers that may not necessarily be that into glass, but they just want something to read on the internet. And over time, it kind of plants a seed that, maybe glass is pretty cool, and I've had people that were very like kind of smirking at me in the parking lot. Like, is that glass? I can't believe you're fishing, that noodle. And those are the same people that years later have like, hey, I got a new 3-weight and I'm so stoked about it. Like, it's the funnest rod that I've got. So I think I've been really fortunate that there's a couple things during the spectrum of writing TFM that I thought I'd get pushed back on. When I started putting in a lot of content that wasn't glass related, thought maybe I'd get pushed back. Didn't happen. I thought when I added some advertising on the website, like I'd get pushed back, like, oh, I guess this is the real reason why you're doing it. People have understood that, like, for the investment of time, there's going to be some ads, and a lot of times it can be really advantageous for readers because it develops giveaways and other things that happen along the way. And over the years, like, our son plays competitive golf. Like, there's golf content that pops up on TFM now, and so I've been really fortunate, like, that I've never really had. I can remember 1 or 2 emails, like somebody will email like, not sure why you put this up, but you should stick to just talking about fiberglass fly rods or fly fishing. So it might not be for everybody every day, but overall, I've been super, super lucky that, I don't know, usually 500 or 600 people that check in on it every day are very, very cool about, like, trusting me, like, they're going to find cool stuff on TFM.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Your son plays competitive golf.
Yeah, if you want a way, if you need a way to burn $100 bills right and left, like, all the time, get your son into competitive golf, because it's wild. Tons of travel.
Need a new set of irons. Need a new set of irons every year.
Yeah, get fit for clubs. Like, it's really, really neat to see him have success at it, but you definitely have to plan for it, and it's not a game that. It's not a surprise that it's not accessible to everybody. Like, you have to have a lot of doors open to do it. But he's had a great time. It's been really fun to watch him get better. At 16, he's got a crazy low handicap, and he's on a golf course 6 and 7 days a week.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. I'm at a golf course like 5 days a week because I work at one, but I wish I was there 6-7 days a week playing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of crazy. I look at golf, like equipment especially, kind of very similar to fly fishing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, very, very similar. Like, say you break a 3-weight. It's like breaking your 4-iron or something like that. It's like you're just going to have to eat the money, It's like, because, I think everyone needs a 3-weight. Or if you have sponsors, just send you one back.
Well, and the other thing I see is that just like fly fishing, golf wants to sell you something new every single year.
Every single year.
Yep. And, I'm the glass guy that fishes fly rods and fly reels that are 50 and 75 years old. This year I put together a ping set that's like old laminate woods, ping I2 irons. I play just as bad with those as I do, my modern set. And it's been really fun just to walk around with a set of clubs that's 30 or 40 years old. And it keeps me in the mindset of just having fun out there instead of getting super competitive about it. But it's pretty neat to see that those clubs work. just like an old fiberglass fly rod works. And so I'm staying on brand even in golf by using stuff that's old and maybe in some people's eyes antiquated.
Dude, I bought my iron set at Goodwill for $15.
Perfect.
And dude, but it's crazy, dude. Those ping Z, I think they're the ping ZIs.
Oh yeah.
Dude, that's a damn good club. I
Yeah.
still see a lot of people hitting that.
Yeah.
But so how do vintage rods compare to today's blanks? Are the newer ones closing the performance gap, you think?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely overall, like we're saying, like in really wide terms, the glass that's being made today is largely way better than glass that was made in like large scale back in the day. The rods were heavier. Maybe the tapers weren't as well designed. It was much more. I don't think there was as many like custom small shop builders doing really specialized tools. You know, you have maybe like a Shakespeare or a Hedden, or that are just putting out thousands and thousands of fly rods using what was then like a pretty new technology. Prior to that, everything was, you know, a cane rod, fly rod, which was laborious. It was tough to get, you know, the materials. It wasn't as easy to build fly rods as it was, you know, with the glass rods. Um, that's not to say there's not some phenomenal vintage glass out there. You have to poke around and find it. And it's going to be harder to find like 3 and 4 weights, because back in the day, like a 5 weight was about as light as a fly rod, you know, was going to be. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
until like into the 70s and 80s that you started seeing them move into some of those lighter line weights. But if you jump on eBay and search for, you know, fiberglass fly rod, you're going to find a lot of 6 weights, 7 weights, 8 weights, 10 weights out there. It's going to be harder to find, you know, 3, 4, and 5 weights. Um,
Huh.
I haven't gotten the email for a long time that say, you know, I'd love to find a vintage, you know, 3 weight. You're going to have a hard time finding that. There's just not
Yeah.
a lot of those around out there. Fast forward to now, well, we'll talk about, there was a lot going on with vintage glass, and then there's a section of time where contemporary was just getting started, and it seemed like there was just a few places to get blanks, and so everybody was building off the same 7 foot 3 weight, 7.6 4 weight, and 8 foot 5 weight. And then we kind of moved into like this last 15 years where you had all these different builders building off of maybe like a dozen different blanks. And then there was another blank maker and another blank maker and another blank maker, and then another rod maker and another rod company that was offering blanks. And so very quickly increased the choices that were out there. And in time, like all these different builders figured out their niche. You know, you talk about like somebody like Chris Barclay, like he's very into like small stream technical fly rods. And there's a couple other builders like, you know, Injun Rod in Japan that were into these like parabolic, like short, like small stream for little brook trout. And then you've got other builders that were, you know, doing more in the heavier line weight class, and other builders that were, you know, doing kind of like Shane Gray in Michigan does kind of like a little bit of everything exceptionally. And he's also the one that's made sure that like when Stephan Brothers was ready to retire, he purchased, you know, everything to keep those blanks, you know, rolling out. He started building on those blanks a lot. You've got companies like Epic in New Zealand that really pushed that idea of fast glass and more progressive tapers, and had a lot of different offerings from, I guess, 3 weight all the way up to 12 weight and even a two-hander. And so, like, over the last 15 years, it went from a very limited number of choices to now there's probably 100 to there's probably 200 rod builders and rod companies. I just don't know them all because they're not, you know, maybe they're not in the United States, or they're in a country that, you know, there's a language barrier. But now the choices across the price spectrum has changed too, where you could still buy a $25 Eagle Claw Featherlight if you want, or you could spend $2,500 on a super, you know, custom rod. But if you're in that, you know, there's a lot of choices in the $200 to $400 range. There's a lot of choices in the $400 to like $600 range. And so where I used to fielded an email like, hey, I'm looking for this, and I might have one or two choices. Now I can give somebody like 5, 6, 8 choices of, you should check this out, and this would be perfect for that, and keep people within their price points that they're trying to reach.
Oh yeah. So it's like, it's not. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, I bought a rod for $60 and it's going to do the same thing as that $400 three weight." Can you see like a very distinct difference between, say, like a $200 glass rod and like a $2,500 glass rod?
I would say when you start getting to that really high end, it's going to be more in the components that are in the rod, the cork that they use for the grip. Sometimes it's just the name of the builder, you know. But I would say
Yeah.
like the uh, things that are made in a factory overseas is going to be a lower price point. Now, I will say there's some exceptional things being made. Where we talked about Echo fly rods. Moonlit has got several. Their new Lunar S Glass, which on sale is like $179, is in a lot of ways every bit as good as some of the contemporary glass that's 4 times that price, and just exceptional quality. Maybe the components are not quite as nice, but do you want to spend less than $200 for a fly rod? Especially, I think of like heavy line weight glass, things that could break on a fish, could break during travel, could like get snapped in a latch, um, door, and in the skiff. Like, I'd rather spend $200 easy replaceable rod than have a fully custom, $800 eight weight that I might,
Right.
damage, with a lead eyes, crashing into it on a bad cast. So, uh,
Yeah.
I think everything has a time and place. If I was going to spend $2,500, I would probably um, think about like a really special 3, 4, or 5 weight that I could be super careful with, and then rods that are just going to get thrashed in a skiff, or a V hull, taking waves out in the middle of Lake
Yeah.
Michigan, or in the saltwater. Like, I'd rather spend less money on that for something that's easy to replace through warranty or get a new tip. Like, anyone that gets an Echo badass glass, like, just immediately order for $20 more or $40, whatever it is, the extra tip, especially if you're traveling with it. Like, I went to Brazil, I took the 8 and the 10 weight, I had extra tips. So if by chance, I blew up my badass glass, like, I immediately had a tip that I could be back in the game, and it's just cheap insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I have to get better at is bringing extra tips wherever I go, because with my luck, dude, I'd be the one that Delta would sit there and just absolutely torch my rod,
Oh yeah.
and it come out, and instead of 4 pieces, it'd be like a 10 piece rod.
Oh yeah.
But do you have a personal favorite glass rod that you own, or have that you've tried?
I think in every line weight, there's like something like that's kind of a special. Like, when I start thinking about 3 weights, anytime I fish 3 weights, it's going to be, like small streams. I did a trip last year up to the Driftless, and it was Chris Barclay's
Oh,
uh, 68P and Injun rod, the Yamagi. I fished both of those rods in the same day, and they're like mind blowing, like favorite 3 weights. And caught some pretty decent sized browns on them on hoppers. It was like phenomenal day. Then you get into 4 weight. I think everybody should own a Stefan 8'3" 4 weight. Like, it's just perfection in that. Epic built a 40 480, which was an 8'4" weight. Another, like, I wish they would bring that blank back. Like, I keep telling Carl, like, the 480 should come back. It's perfection. You get in the 5 weight, there's a ton of really great fly rate. Um, 5 weights, everything from the Orva superfine glass to Mike McFarland has magical tapers, to Dusty at Livingston Rod Company. His Western glass is amazing. 6 weight, Epic 686 is big time favorite. Moonlit, their Lunar S Glass, and their Phoenix Nirvana, super like performance wise, right there with it. And then I fish a lot of heavyweight line weight glass. And so everything from badass glass to the Epic rods, to I fish the Orvis superfine glass in 6 and 8 weight. Love the 8 weight. If you've been considering the 8-weight, like I would get it now instead of waiting, because I've heard that there could be a chance that they might phase that line weight off of the family. So if you've been thinking about that one, like go find it, go buy it, go get a second one just to have in your back pocket. It's that good. And then when you get into 10 weights, Epic Bandit, I could go big fish the world over, from carp on up to tarpon, even caught a black tip, 80-pound black tip shark, probably was undergunned on that. But the Bandit is like, travel the world with it. And then you get into like the heavy Echo Badass Class 12 weight, Epic 12 weight. You can get into like Mike McFarland builds. Will roll some real heavy line weight stuff, short stuff that casts great. You can handle huge things on his 12 and 14 weights. Two-handers, Echo brought back their two-handers this year. They're newer, they're better. So it's real hard to pin me down like what's the best. It's just like, I think one of my favorite things, and I'm starting it tonight because I'm going to go up to Virginia and fish with Mike Rennie and Danny Reed for smallmouth, is that process of like planning for a trip. Like, what are the fly rods I want to take, and then match fly reels with it. And I need to, like, what fly lines need to go on the fly reels. Like, once that part's done and like the gear's all put together, like I can pack clothes, I can pack like outerwear, waders, like super fast. It's just that process of working out, like, what are the perfect fly rods that need to go on this trip. And so I'm good about making lists, trip lists. And so I'll be knocking out all of that tonight to be ready to leave on Sunday for that trip. But we're really, really fortunate right now that there's there's literally hundreds and hundreds of glass rods out there. And like I said before, from $30 up to thousands of dollars, you've got all these prices, all these choices across the spectrum. It's like the best time ever to be a glass geek, because you're never going to run out of choices of things that might be perfect for the fly fishing that you do.
I got you. You going up to, I'm not going to spot burn it, NR?
I'm going to Virginia and meeting up with Mike Rennie. I don't know where he's taking us fishing. I kind of learned years ago, like being shown places. I really don't ask where I'm at. Or
that's what I do too.
Like
I don't really ask.
I don't need to know. Like, I was fishing with Mike Rennie a couple months ago, and we fished a couple little tiny brook trout streams. I couldn't tell you what the names of those places were. Like, I just, instead of being blindfolded, I just blindfold myself and don't ask. And we did a float on a river.
Yeah.
I think I remember what the name of the river was, but I just don't make that the central part of the story. I try to take a bunch of pretty pictures and talk about the day and maybe the glass rods that I fished on that trip. And I've never really had anybody like, I wish you'd tell us where you're fishing at. I'm just talking about the experience. The experience was awesome.
Oh yeah.
I think we're going to be fishing, foam flies and poppers for smallmouth for a couple days and have a good time. And I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be fun. Now, are you from North Carolina?
I'm originally from Michigan. So I grew up in Michigan. My wife and I met in college up there. And then she grew up in South Carolina. And we got married. Okay. We lived out in Colorado for about a year and a half. And then too much was going on in South Carolina that we were missing out on. So we moved back and got settled here. And I've lived in South Carolina now for over 24 years.
Oh, hey, I was at the Saluda on Saturday.
Oh, you were? Oh.
Yeah. That's what I live right here in Charlotte. And one of my buddies called me and was like, hey, dude, you want to go down to the Saluda?
How'd you guys do?
Like, decent. We caught some schoolies. I lost a big striper.
Well.
And it was weird, though, man. Like, you'd see them. Big ones, too. And you throw whatever at them. We're throwing big streamers at them, and they wouldn't even sniff a big streamer.
Really?
The big one I hooked was on a Clouser minnow.
Wow.
Literally that big. It was like a 32, 35-inch striper. Big on it. It was like that big. Huge.
I've done several trips on the Saluda. There's one trip I was fishing these like long hair bugs, like kind of like East Coast hair bugs with there's jungle cock and everything. I mean, they're like super like fancy. And I had striper that were all over those. And they
Mhm.
really move easy in the water and like flex with all that long bucktail on it.
Yeah,
Did you
that's a
float it
hell of a
or?
fishery. Yeah, we floated
Yeah.
it.
Well, next time you're
Yeah,
down, let me know
that's
because I live in Gilbert and work in Lexington, and so that's
heck yeah,
that's backyard water. I don't fish it enough, but it's there.
dude. That was like my first time actual like fun fishing all summer. I've been so dang busy. I've been dude,
Well, you
just
deserved that then.
so busy. Yeah, I did. I was like, dang man. I was like, I got to get out more often. But we're going up to the mountains this weekend, so might try and get a little fishing in then.
Good.
But
Won't be the same pull as the
what's
striper.
oh yeah, dude. There's nothing like it. We dude. So it was kind of cool. Like my parents were in Columbia meeting my uncle. There's this place called like Steel Hands Brewing. Super cool place. It
Yep.
was like right there, like past West Columbia. Super cool. First time I've ever been there. I was like, I had to come back here next time I'm in the Saluda.
This entire area, Lexington's had some exceptional, like our downtown. There's an amphitheater now. There's 100 plus events a year there, and a lot of restaurants have come into play and bars. And I mean, just it's revitalized downtown having that amphitheater there.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool though. I haven't been to Lexington in a while, probably before all that was built. But I love that area, dude. Except dude, Columbia is so damn hot.
Yeah, I didn't realize like this area is in a bowl, and so it might like the wind might be blowing, but we don't feel it down in the bowl. It's just
Yeah.
it's just still like even today, there's no breeze outside right now. It's been high 90s and just humid,
Oh
just brutal.
damn.
But
Yeah, yeah. What's next?
I realized
Okay.
years ago like nobody wanted to hear a Midwest Yankee talk about how hot they were, so I just keep it to myself and just pretend it's not happening.
Yeah, that's how I was too. It's like I'm originally from New England, and it's like I've lived in Florida, and then here, like I'm just not gonna talk about how hot I am. I'm just
Right.
gonna like I'm just gonna like suffer quietly how hot I am. But what's next for the Fiberglass Manifesto? Like more gear, formulas, collaborations. What do you got?
Just, keep plugging away at it. I think the neat part of it is how creative I've been able to be over the years and like kind of masterminding right now, like a giveaway, like a weekend giveaway centered around like we cook a lot in our family and like Sunday morning breakfast is like a big deal. And so I've got an idea for that and just got some trips lined up. There's new glass in the works from several different companies. So, fielding some emails, prototypes will start showing up. And just, I think I said it before, like it's a creative outlet for me. I've been in law enforcement now for, well, this month will be 24 years with the Lexington Police Department, and having TFM as creative outlet, like a way to have like a circle of friends and people, that I know that um, it's not always healthy to like only have friends in the job that you do. And
Right.
so having TFM as a source for connecting with other people has been super for me, and I continue. I'm going to keep doing it as long as people keep reading it. I think
Yeah.
we've gone through like several waves where everybody was blogging and then it like kind of waned as far as people doing it, and then it had a couple blips during COVID. All of a sudden there was like this huge interest again. Then there was podcasts, like everybody was a podcaster. And I just keep my head down and every day plug away at what I'm doing on my little piece of the internet. Keep having fun with it and kind of see what opportunities open up, places to travel to, new glass to fish, and just keep having fun with it.
That's about all you can do right
Oh
there,
yeah.
man. That's pretty awesome. But you got any new builders on your radar yet?
There's always ones that pop up. I'm really excited right now because Chris Barclay, who was real active as a builder, and then some things got in the way and took a back seat, and he really wasn't building at all. It sounds like he's going to open up a small shop in Winston-Salem, like actually have a
Oh, cool.
storefront where he's going to build like 3, 4, 5 days a week. And so expect him to like have a resurgence. There's stuff going on in Europe and Japan that's really fun to follow. There's a couple different rod companies that are coming out with new generations of glass, which is really exciting. It's pretty neat just to see that the conversations continue. And it's been very few companies that have like, all right, we did a glass project. It wasn't really well received, and we're just going to let it go. Orvis has done several generations. Reddington's done several generations. Anytime Epic comes out with something new, like it causes like a lot of interest. Echo has had, I guess we're probably on 5 or 6 different generations of different glass that they've offered. So that's what keeps me excited about it, because every time somebody comes out with something new, then there's also a lot of interest in things kind of in that same space. And so it's pretty wild to see that there's that many of us that are that dedicated to fishing glass, that it's supporting like this little niche of the fly fishing industry that just continues to grow a little bit by a little bit. But I mean, glass is not dead means a lot of different things, and there's certainly like growing interest in people fishing glass, and so that's been pretty neat to follow along with.
Heck yeah! So this is how I end all my shows. So your 5 go-to fishing songs, I got them curated on a massive playlist.
So I've gotten really into like Texas outlaw country, Blaze Foley, Towns Van Zant, John Prine. So any of that is good. And what's been pretty interesting, I've always thought like you can always impart like your music taste on your kids. Like I grew up, my parents had bad music taste, which ended up being my music taste. And I'm doing the same thing with our children. Our daughter's 19, our son is 16, and he's suddenly like on his turtle box, like in the bathroom or in his truck, like he is like blasting like old country. And so I told my wife, it could be so much worse. It could be absolutely so much worse. In fact, it's like a great, like the music that he's into is amazing. And our daughter's into a lot of very eclectic music that I really enjoy. But I've really, really deep dove for some reason into a lot of that whole Van Zant, Blaze Foley, John Prine, kind of that Guy Clark, that group of musicians, and it makes a nice soundtrack for fly fishing.
Heck yeah, dude. I love Towns Van Zandt. Dude, all awesome music. I listen to like my parents listen to a lot of like Grateful Dead and stuff like that, like the Allman Brothers. So like that's
right.
kind of what I listen to now. So it's like that
parents are awesome.
Cool,
parents are awesome for being on part like not terrible music, but like their music on their kids. And
yeah.
My daughter and I went and saw Ben Queller in Chicago. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but Hadley's like, I remember listening to him like on the way to school when I was in like 5th grade. And we had such a good time at the concert. I mean, he was amazing seeing live. And so it's pretty neat to like build memories with your children around music.
It's I kind of had a similar thing like that with my little sister. So I used to have an old '07 Tahoe, and if like I would go through like auxiliary cords like it was candy, and if one of my auxiliary cords was broken, I'd have to just listen to CDs. Well, the only CDs I had were Alabama, Jimmy Buffett, and like who else? Like a Jason Aldean one, and I'd always put on like the Alabama one or Jimmy Buffett. And I'd go and pick up my little sister at like school, and I'd bring her to tennis practice for my mom, and I'm listening to Alabama, Dixieland Delight, that whole album. And my little sister's like, "This music sucks," and she's like, "This music is horrible. Like, why do you listen to this?" And it's like fast forward like 20 years. My little sister's in college. Not really 20 years, I should say like 10, 11 years. My sister's in college, and we go and visit her for like a UGA football game. She's blaring, she's literally screaming Dixieland Delight at the top of her lungs in the middle of the bar. I'm like, you remember when you used to say this song sucked? I was like, now you're screaming it at the top of your lungs in the middle of a bar in Athens, Georgia,
And it's all your fault.
and it's all my fault.
That's
But
awesome.
that's about all I got for you today, man. You got any last thanks or plugs that you want to shout out?
If you ever have wanted to fish glass, like now's the time to do it. If you ever have questions about it, like I'm super easy to get a hold of through Instagram or send an email. I love like working out with people. Like, tell me your budget. Tell me what weight line rod you're looking for. Like anything I can help. Like connect you with that your new favorite fly rod. It's been really fun to like do that over the years, then have people email back like, this is absolutely my favorite fly rod. Now I want more, and then those conversations continue. But it only takes 4 or 5 questions to get answered, and there's a lot of different choices out there. And just give it a try. And I always tell people like maybe not try like an 8 or a 10 weight in glass as your first glass rod. Let's try a 3 or 4 or 5 weight, like something in that sweet spot of something that's fun for bluegill, something that's fun for trout. And then once you realize that you like it in those line weights, then we can start adding the weird stuff in of the 6 and the 8 and the 10 and the 12 weight, the 2-hander. But let's start in something that you should like relatively know quickly that like this is a great fit for me, and then kind of build it from there.
Heck yeah, man. But thank you so much for coming on, dude. I'm sorry for the technical
Oh yeah, no
difficulties
problem.
early on in the episode, but
It was a fun
I'm
conversation.
gonna click. Yeah, man. I'm gonna click stop here, and then well, we might have to let some of it upload.
All right.
But let's see. That was Cameron with the Fiberglass Manifesto. Whatever. That was just a really cool episode. Super nice guy. Big thank you to Cameron for coming on. But if you need any recommendations on fiberglass fly rods, that's your guy. I don't know anybody that was like straight up passionate about something so much to go and start an entire blog on it and get that deep and in depth about something uh that much. Just go start a blog about it. I was like, that's pretty cool. But he does know a lot about fiberglass fly rods. If you want one, give him your budget. Give him what you want out of it, and he'll get you right. But a few other things before we end this episode. Um, we will be at the Bold Rock Fishing Fest this Saturday, July 26th. Come and say what's up. We'll have flies, stickers. Um, just come and chat, hang out. Um, whatever you want, man. Just come and see us. We'll be at the Rise Flies booth. Um, can't wait for that. It's gonna be super cool. But another thing, um, we got on the new Free Fly South Fork guide pants. Um, these things are incredibly comfortable. Well, I'm talking incredibly comfortable. Um, just they got some front zippers. Uh, they got some front zippers. They got a super nice. They got one like clip back pocket, and then a zipper back pocket. Just really nice, comfortable pants. Go and check them out. Super super cool. They're nice. Feel like they quick dry. Um, just all around comfy pants. I'll definitely be wearing these a lot, whether I'm on the water or off the water. They're good for both. Um, just so go check them out. Freefly.com. Um, I'll drop the website in the show notes. Um, go check out them free fly self for God pants. But before we end, like I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, go and check out the Convoy series and the Riversmith River Quivers at riversmith.com. and use code Wrangler10 for 10% off your whole purchase. And check out anything in that Convoy series and the River Quivers, and you will get a free year of Trout Routes Premium. So go check that out. Riversmith.com. Go check out these free fly guide pants. They so comfortable. It's hard to explain. So hard to explain. But tell you what, it feels like my ass is inside a cloud. But that's all we got for today. Come and check back in with us Friday. We got Matt Fitz from Southern Drawl Outfitters. But until Friday, hope you like this one. Like, subscribe, whatever you do. This will be available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find a podcast. So until Friday, thank you.